Welcome back to the Brandmerry channel, where we are sharing personal branding and marketing strategies to help you improve your impact and your income. I am Michelle Knight, founder and CEO of Brandmerry.com, and today I want to share with you some of my favorite content creation hacks for 2021. The first thing that I have for you on content creation hacks of 2021, and this one is key, so I'm going to spend a little bit more time on this one than I will the others. This is all about your research. Do your research. Now, I don't know about you, but when I first started my business 5 years ago, people weren't really talking about how important it was to do our research. Now, we were talking about ideal customer research, right? Having conversations with people, but no one was talking about the research that actually went into creating content. And so you would just post things that you were like, oh, I think my audience might like this. This might work. And I fell into that trap for a really long time until I started looking kind of outside of my niche at what was really working for marketing as a whole. And it always came back down to this idea that the data is there. The information is there. What people are searching for is already there. We just have to take the time to look for it. And so this step is all about doing your research before you even start creating your content. Now, it's important. This is going to drive really the topics and the type of content that you are going to create, because it's the type of stuff that's going to bring in cold audience members. And so when you're thinking about creating content, remember, we're creating content that is, yes, meant to serve people that already know us, but you've got to get consistent people coming in that funnel, finding you online, discovering you, getting to know you. That has to be a consistent stream in order for them to then binge read all your posts on Instagram or go binge watch all your videos on YouTube. So we've got to have really strategic content that gets people in the door. And that's where this research element comes into play. You need to do SEO research, search engine optimized research. What are people searching for on Google specifically? Now, that will also play a role in other search engines like Pinterest and YouTube, which are two of my favorites over here at Brandmerry. And those are all search engines, meaning someone is going there, they're typing in something they're looking for, they're getting results. Very different than Facebook or Instagram, where they're not search engine optimized platforms at this time. So you want to do your research, and this research needs to be based on SEO. There are two tools that I want to share with you that are going to make this much easier. One of them is called Keywords Everywhere, and it is an extension that you can use on your Chrome browser. You do have to pay for a number of searches, but it is totally worth it. And it's going to tell you, when you type in topics into Google, how many people are actually searching for that every single month. What is the cost per click? Is this something that people are interested in? Is it really competitive? And you can start to play with that and find combinations that work really well for the topics in your industry. It's also going to give you a list of suggestions on the side of other things that you might talk about. Right here, you could have an entire month's worth of content from just a few searches. The other tool that I love to use in my business is called Ubersuggest, and that is another Chrome extension. They do have a free option with a couple limited searches every single month, but you can also pay for a paid version of that as well. And Ubersuggest is another tool that we love to use over here for SEO, big picture. Not just what content should I be creating, but how do I optimize that to show up and rank on Google. So again, you can go in, you can type in topics, you can type in things that you think are of interest to your audience based on your ideal client research, based on what people are saying with you, and then you can get the data to back that up. Oftentimes we're like, this is a great topic, oh my gosh, but nobody's actually searching for it. And so it's going to be really, really hard to get that blog post or that piece of content in front of your audience if people aren't actually searching for it on Google. So those are two that I love. Another tool, if you're in the ideal client research phase, that can help you with the content creation is called Answer the Public. And Answer the Public basically pulls all the data from Google on the top questions that people are asking in certain areas, niches, industries, pain points, all those different things. And so you can take the information that you know about your ideal customer, you can put it in the search line, and then it's going to give you all of these different questions that people are asking. By clicking on those, it'll then open it up to Google, which you'll be able to do more digging. So yes, this stage takes a little bit of time, but it's absolutely worth it. And it's going to take the mystery out of what do I write? What do I talk about? And everything that you're going to create regarding your content is data driven. And that means podcasts, blog posts, social media content, videos, all of it. All right. So number one, do your research. Number two, design your workflow. You should not be recreating the wheel every single week in your business. You need to be showing up and creating consistent content. And one of the things that I have found that people struggle with when it comes to creating the consistent content is that they don't have a workflow in place. So we're taking the mystery out of what do I talk about? We just talked about that, number one. Do your research. That'll tell you what kind of topics to talk about, what kind of content create. But if you don't have these systems and these workflows in place, you're going to struggle with consistency. So create a workflow for your business specifically that you can repeat week after week after week. So how many blog posts are you going to publish a week? How many videos are you going to release weekly, bi-weekly, monthly? Are you going to have a podcast? What channels are you showing up on social media? Are you going to be on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, all of the different places? Where are you going to be showing up? Put that into a workflow of I'm going to create a blog post, and then that blog post is going to become 12 posts on Twitter, and that blog post is going to become 2 posts on Instagram, and then I'm going to take that blog post and I'm going to record a podcast episode, right? You could do this a ton of different ways. Figure out the way that works best for you. Some of my clients love blogging and writing, so that's their core content. Some of my clients love video, like myself. That's their core content. Some love recording audio, podcasting. That's their core content. Whatever core content you want, you can then push it out and repurpose it on multiple different platforms. But you want to have a workflow in place. So if every Monday you're recording a video, then you know every Thursday you're creating a blog post, and then you know there are 2 to 3 social media posts every week, and you can just go and repeat that cycle week after week. It's these systems that allow us to build sustainable businesses. And so build out your system. Now, I'm going to have more on this topic in next week's video where we're going to talk specifically about workflows. So make sure that you tune in for that. But if you want to grab a little cheat sheet that I've put together for you, you can go to brandmerry.com/repurpose and you can get your hands on a little bit more details regarding that. But again, next week, we're going to go into deep detail on how do you create a workflow? Where do you show up? What does this even look like? All right. So number 2 is create and design a workflow that you can repeat week after week for creating your content. Number 3 is kind of a piggyback off of number 1 with the data, but this is know your numbers. Look at your analytics, please. See what people enjoy about the content that you're creating. What types of videos do well? What types of podcast titles and episodes have a higher, listener rate? What kind of blog posts are getting more rank on Google, are getting more traffic from Pinterest? Which of your social media posts get more saves and shares and engagement? You have to make it a habit to look at your numbers. And I suggest looking at your numbers every 30 days and then 60 days and then 90 days and making small adjustments along the way. For instance, I did a podcast episode about morning routines, which was like one of the hardest things for me to do because I have a very different take on morning routines. You can listen to that podcast episode over on the Beautiful Climb podcast. But this was a topic that we knew my audience cared about. We had seen it through Instagram posts, through past Pinterest traffic. All kinds of data was saying, do this dang podcast episode, Michelle. So I did it. It was our highest listenership because we knew that it was going to be. It was one of our most viewed reels that I created on Instagram. We then took that content and turned it into a blog post, and that blog post is doing amazing on Pinterest. So the data is there. Once you have this consistent rhythm, you have that workflow in place, you're creating consistent content, you can start to take the guesswork out of creating content. Look at your analytics, know your numbers, create more of what is working. Now, you can absolutely experience and play around with things, you should, but always come back to your numbers and allow that to fuel those decisions. Again, video works really well in my business. We know this to be true. And so we come back to video time and time again. So make modifications to your plan along the way based on your analytics. here's an example of a modification that we made heading into 2021. So as I've mentioned multiple times, video does really well. And I know that to be true. The analytics show that. But live video wasn't necessarily working better than pre-recorded video. And live video takes more time and energy on my part. So rather than not creating videos, we realized that we could pre-record bulk content, so 4 to 5 videos, depending on how many weeks are in a month, to be released every single Monday on Facebook as a premiere and on IGTV, and then repackaged to release on YouTube. This goes back to that workflow I was talking about before. And so by looking at the data, we realized that we could make this adjustment. I could have more time in my schedule to take on more clients, which resulted in more money. So it's all based on your numbers. All right, and the last thing that I want to share with you, the last tip, is outsourcing. Now, before you're like, Michelle, I don't have the money to invest in a team, I totally understand. When I say outsourcing, I mean tech or team. So if you have the means to hire a virtual assistant or hire somebody to manage your workflow in Asana or Trello or ClickUp or wherever you're setting it up, to publish your videos, to edit your videos, do that. Start to outsource those content creation pieces very, very early on if you have the means to invest in that. If you don't, there are tech options available that are going to, yes, be an investment, but a small amount compared to how much time you're spending. So you can use tools like Veed.io, which I talked about in a recent video, to resize your videos and add a transcript and even edit slightly with, the captions and the titles to go out on different platforms. You can use transcript services like Rev.com to upload your video and have a full transcript that you can turn into your blog. There are a lot of tech options out there that will help you streamline this entire content creation process. And again, as you begin to build your revenue, you can then build your team, which is going to make your life so much easier for so many different reasons. But outsourcing is a big deal. Content creation is kind of the heart of your business. Without strong content, you can't attract your ideal customer, you're not nurturing your existing audience, you're not showing up for them, you're not able to sell. And so creating content should be a very, very important part of your brand, of growing your business. And so this is where I recommend that people invest pretty early on when it comes to tech, when it comes to team, when it comes to marketing and advertising dollars as well. Well, there you have it. You have 4 content creation hacks for 2021. I know that these are not only going to help you streamline your creation process, but also make sure that you're creating high quality content. That is truly what it is about. High quality content that is extended, going out on multiple platforms, living longer than 25 minutes or whatever on social media, so that you can consistently bring in new people to your brand, nurture them, and ultimately lead to more impact and more income for your business. I will be back next week with another episode where we're going to dive into the workflow specifically. But in the meantime, if you want to grab that repurposing guide, go to brandmerry.com/repurpose. Go ahead, like this video, subscribe, and leave a comment or any questions that you might have, and I'll see you next week.